Hello everyone, I hope you all are doing well. So for the past 30 days, I have been using the Google Pixel 7a as my daily driver and I am absolutely loving it. But before you jump in and get this for yourself, I think you should wait a few more months before it gets much cheaper. At the current MSRP of 44,000 rupees in India or some $500 in the US, the Pixel 7a simply does not offer the best value. But the great thing about Pixel phones is that they always get a lot cheaper after a month or two. Just look at last year's Pixel 6a, which is now 34% cheaper than what it initially launched for. Similarly, the Pixel 7 originally went for 60,000 rupees but is now available for 50,000 rupees. So if we consider that price drop in the future, the Pixel 7a is an incredible mid-range phone to buy. I think Google has compromised in the right areas to deliver a well-balanced phone here. Plus, with the recent updates, some of the issues such as overheating, battery drain, and camera stopping after a few minutes of recording have all been fixed. And I think this is the right time for me to talk about my full long-term experience. Like always, let me start with the things that I really like about the Pixel 7a. And its form factor is definitely on the top of my list. It's currently the cheapest compact phone that you can buy right now, and it feels incredibly comfortable to hold and use with one hand. The back here is similar to the more expensive Pixel 7 and 7 Pro, while this camera layout is also much better looking than last year's Pixel 6a for me. To keep the cost down, Google has used plastic on the back, but it does not feel cheap or anything. In fact, I initially thought that it was glass. But since plastic tends to get scratched easily, which by the way I already have got some, it's better you case it up. Other than that, you get aluminium frames and a nice heft overall. It held up to Jerry Riggs' bend test admirably well. It is IP67 dust and waterproof, and the metal buttons on the side have a nice tactile feedback to it as well. So the overall construction of the Pixel 7a is pretty darn good. Up front, you get a good quality display too. It's a full HD 90Hz OLED panel with a very good touch response, nice haptics, and super accurate colors. But having tested so many good mid-range phones lately, I must say that the Pixel 7a's display is simply not as good as the competition. At a similar price, you will get a much brighter display and thinner bezels and a more fluid 120Hz refresh rate from companies like OnePlus, Vivo, and even Samsung. That being said, I did not have any problem with this screen. Yes, the bezels could have been slimmer like the one on the Galaxy A54, and maybe the brightness could have been higher for better outdoor visibility, but for watching movies or just interacting with the phone, I have got no complaints. By the way, HDR playback also works well here when watching movies and series on Netflix and Amazon Prime. The speakers are fairly decent, but nothing extraordinary. But I've got to admire the location of this fingerprint sensor, and it's quite fast too. Okay, let's talk about the performance, and this is the one aspect where Google has been facing a lot of criticism recently because of the Samsung-made Tensor chipset. And the Pixel 7a is powered by the same Tensor G2 chip that we saw on the Pixel 7 and 7 Pro. But since the 7a is a much cheaper device, I think we can go easy on the Tensor G2. So for the price, the Pixel 7a's performance is really good, I would say. It's smooth and I never got a hint of any kind of stutters. It performs much better than the Galaxy A54, that's for sure. The Pixel experience here is also more polished, coming in 2023, and the bugs are also non-existent. Likewise, in my 1 month of testing, I also never faced any overheating issues during my regular usage, and that's coming from someone who's on mobile data all the time. However, the Tensor G2 does heat up while gaming, and it throttles the performance with a big dip in FPS numbers. For casual gamers like me, I was getting stable 60 FPS in games like PUBG and Call of Duty by lowering the graphics settings. You can also play high FPS ready games like Mech Arena at 90 FPS, but unoptimized and heavy titles like Genshin Impact are only playable in medium settings. And even so, the phone gets quite hot and toasty if you play these games for more than 30 minutes. So for gamers, the Pixel 7a is of course a no-go. You should be looking at the OnePlus 11R or the Poco F5 instead. But what those phones don't offer is a reliable and consistent camera. With the Pixel 7a in my pocket, honestly, I did not miss my S23 Ultra like 90% of the time because it was able to pull out great looking photos both during daytime as well as nighttime. As with all Pixel phones, you get accurate colors, which is slightly on the vibrant side, but it still looks pleasing to the eyes. I also like the portraits and selfies. This time, compared to last year's Pixel 6a, you get better skin tone and the background blur is done nicely too. But I did miss the dedicated telephoto lens since its 2x portraits don't maintain too many details. You also get an improved ultra-wide-angle lens with a wider field of view, which is pretty good considering its price. It's much better than the one you get on the Galaxy A54 or the OnePlus 11R for that matter. The videography aspect is also okay, but this was one aspect where I missed my S23 Ultra since the Pixel 7a stabilization is just not as good as a flagship phone. It also struggles to lock focus at times, but if you look at the positives, you can click 4K videos from all three lenses, and if you have a gimbal and good lights, you can get some good footages. Likewise, there are a couple of things that could have been better in the Pixel 7a. First, I think the battery could be more optimized. It's just average right now, giving me less than 5 hours of screen on time, and I have to plug it in as early as 6 p.m. in the evening. And the charging speed here is painfully slow too. You only get 18-watt charging support, which takes the phone to just 35% in half an hour, while a complete refill takes a full 2 hours. Maybe Google could have bumped the charging speed to 30 watt here since the battery life, as I said, is pretty meh. So overall, if you look at everything this phone has got, I think Google should have priced it more aggressively rather than gradually decreasing the price. And yeah, you should definitely play a waiting game if you want to get the best value out of the Pixel 7a. However, if you can't wait at all, I still believe last year's Pixel 6a is still a fantastic phone that offers a very similar experience as the Pixel 7a. That phone is available at as low as 27,000 rupees in India, which for me is a steal considering its cameras is almost as good as the Pixel 7a. So everyone, that is all for my full review of the Pixel 7a. Just so you know, the review unit for this review was purchased by us and nobody else except for Gadget Bytes team has had the editorial input for this review. That is all for today. Thank you so much for watching.